This is a 140mm UpHere fan. Now, is it a steaming pile of e-waste, or is it something worth buying? Let's find out. What's up everyone, Eric here, and welcome to Hardware for Gamers. For those of you who are new to the channel, I mostly test and review PC cases, CPU coolers, and PC case fans. So if that is something you're into, think about liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It does help out a lot. As always, I will have timestamps down in the description so you can jump to whatever interests you, but as always, I do recommend you watch the whole review. This fan is listed on Amazon as the UpHere 14CMW3. It is a 140mm fan with a rated RPM of 1000. It has 9 blades. I don't know what the bearing type is, and it has a 3-pin fan connector and a molex connector, which is kind of sad to see. Warranty, well, there is no warranty, and the options are you get this in a green LED, a white LED, or no LEDs whatsoever. And a pack of these fans with the white LED is $20 US, and you get 3 fans in a pack. Now, as always, before I get into the results of the testing, I wanted to be very clear. All this testing is based off a sample size of 1, so this isn't necessarily the same performance you'll get, but it should be relatively close. Okay, starting off with the LED. So at 12 volts, the LEDs look okay, I guess. They're not quite as bright as I would like them to be, but they're fairly even. Now, if the voltage is adjusted, i.e. you do a custom fan profile, the LEDs will dim. For me, the LEDs turned off completely at 7.4 volts. Moving on to the standardized testing, if you do have any questions on how I test the fans, please watch my fan testing method video. There'll be a card along the top, and I'll also have it linked down in the description. The first chart we'll go over will be the dBA and RPM chart. So at 4 volts, the fan was at 32 dBA, which is the noise floor of my testing area, and had an RPM of 410. Now the sound recording of this fan at 4 volts. Now at 6 volts, the dBA was unchanged at 32 dBA, but the RPM went up to 600. And now the sound recording at 6 volts. At 8 volts, the dBA increased to only 32.2, and that had the RPM at 770. And here's the sound recordings at 8 volts. At 10 volts, the sound level was at 32.4 dBA, and the RPM was at 895. And here's the sound recording at 10 volts. Finally, at 12 volts, the dBA was 32.8, with the RPM at 1005, and the sound recording at 12 volts. Okay, so all in all, a fairly quiet fan, but how much air can it move? At 4 volts, with no obstructions, the FPM was 45. Then with the mesh panel, the FPM was at 12, and with the covered panel, the FPM was at 0. Now jumping up to 12 volts, with no obstructions, the FPM was 230. With the meshed panel, the FPM was 220. And with the covered panel, the FPM was at 90. On to the temperature testing. At 4 volts, the average temperature was at 92 Celsius. At 6 volts, it was at 87.6 Celsius. At 8 volts, it was at 83 Celsius. At 10 volts, it was 81.3 Celsius. And at 12 volts, the average temperature was 80 Celsius. Okay, moving on to the comparisons. Since this is the only 140mm fan I've tested so far, I'll be comparing the 14CMW3 to some 120mm fans. So the first fan is the Arctic F12 PWM PST. I'll also be comparing it to the Be Quiet Shadow Wings 2 120mm fan and the Be Quiet Pure Wings 2 High Speed 120mm fan. So taking a look at the dBA chart here, as you can see, the Shadow Wings 2 and this UpHere fan do have a much lower dBA at the higher voltages. Continuing to the airflow testing, With no obstructions, the UpHere fan does move more air than the Shadow Wings 2 fan does. Then with the meshed panel, things don't really change much. The UpHere fan still moves more air than the Shadow Wings 2, but not as much as the Pure Wings 2 or the F12. Then with the covered panel, things do change. There is a large FPM drop across all the fans. This UpHere fan does manage to maintain its FPM a bit better than some of the other fans. Now the Arctic F12 isn't meant to be behind a solid front panel, so take that with a grain of salt. And the Pure Wings 2 high speed is still moving a fair bit more air. So for the CPU temperature comparison testing, I can't fairly compare the 120mm fans to the 140mm fans, and this is because I use a different heatsink. So I'm just gonna kind of skip over this and not show the 120mm fans here because it's not really comparable. Now with that being said, I don't think you should be using this fan to cool your CPU because those temperatures are quite high. Okay, moving on to the 34 dBA testing. So the fans are noise equalized to 34 dBA, or they are set to 12 volts if they don't reach 34 dBA. With no obstructions, this UpHere fan moved 230 FPM, which has it second from the bottom. Then with the mesh panel, the UpHere fan was moving the air at 220 FPM, which again has it second from the bottom. And then with the covered panel, this UpHere fan moved the air at 90 FPM, which has it just beating the F12 and has it much closer to the Pure Wings 2 high speed. So what do I think of the UpHere 14CMW3? First off, like all UpHere products, horrible name, horrible name. Now I will be pretty upfront here, I do not recommend this fan, and that's because there is no warranty. Meaning if something goes wrong with the fan and you're outside the Amazon return window, you're SOL. Meaning you're having to buy new fans, because I don't know where UpHere's website is, but it doesn't seem to exist, at least in North America and Europe. Now, if you don't care about the fan having a warranty and you're just looking for a quiet and cheap fan, the best place or the best case type for this fan would likely be a case with a solid front panel. And that's because the fan was able to move an okay amount of air when compared to the other fans in the noise equalized covered panel test. Well, that's all I got for this one. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're still watching, maybe hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified whenever I drop a new video. Also follow me on Twitter at HFG_YT. I also have an HFG Discord server. I post all the charts, or most of the charts of what I just showed here, up onto there so you can actually compare all the fans and all the cases and all the CPU coolers I've tested. All the charts are up on the HFG Discord server. Now you do need to be a member to actually view the charts, but to become a member, all you have to do is agree to the server rules. It's really simple, just don't be a dick. You can also check out these videos here. They should be along the same lines of what you just watched. And as always, thank you for watching, and see you next time.